The most fascinating creatures that inhabit the microscopic world are those organisms classified into the kingdom Protista, the protists. As is true of certain bacteria, a few protists cause serious diseases. For example, malaria, sleeping sickness, and certain forms of dysentery are all caused by protists. Most protists are single-celled organisms, but some have a very simple multicellular structure. Protists are much larger than bacteria and also have a distinct nucleus that is separated from the cytoplasm by a nuclear membrane. Protists, in particular the animal-like protists called protozoa, also possess a number of specialized cell structures that allow them to perform many complex activities. Locomotion, that is the ability to move about, is very highly developed in protists. Protists basically use any one of 3 different cell structures for locomotion. Perhaps the most common of these are the wiggling hair-like structures called cilia, seen here. Organisms possessing cilia are classified into the protist phylum known as the ciliates. Besides being used for locomotion, many ciliates also use cilia to sweep food into mouth-like openings in their cells. Organisms like the amoeba seen here are classified into a second protist phylum called the rhizopods. These creatures move by extending projections of their cytoplasm known as pseudopods, or false feet, and then pulling themselves along. This unique style of locomotion is called amoeboid movement. A third phylum of protists are the flagellates. These organisms move by wiggling long, whip-like threads called flagella. The flagellate seen here, called a euglena, is an interesting organism because it possesses both animal and plant-like characteristics. Like a plant, the euglena has green-colored chloroplasts that are used to make food by photosynthesis. However, under conditions of darkness, a euglena behaves more like an animal by hunting for and ingesting food. Other features of the euglena that are more animal than plant-like are its ability to move freely about and to sense light with its large red eye spot. The cytoplasm of protists is normally filled with sac-like structures called vacuoles that carry out several important life processes, including digestion, elimination of wastes, and the regulation of the cell's correct osmotic balance. The osmotic balance, which is the proper concentration of dissolved salts inside a cell, is normally regulated by contractile vacuoles like the one seen here. Contractile vacuoles pump excess water out of the cell in order to maintain a healthy internal cellular environment. Another important type of vacuole are food vacuoles. In the case of an amoeba, food vacuoles are formed when pseudopods of cytoplasm surround and engulf food material. Biologists call this process phagocytosis, a word which means cell eating. Digestion occurs inside the food vacuole, nutrients are released, and then absorbed into the cytoplasm where they can be used by the cell. After nutrient absorption is complete, the waste-filled food vacuoles migrate to the cell membrane, and their contents are evacuated into the outer environment. Among the plant-like protists, the most diverse phylum are the green algae, organisms found in great abundance in stagnant water. In the food chains of the natural world, green algae are very important because they are primary food producers and producers of oxygen as well. Although most green algae are single-celled organisms, they quite often live together in groups called cell colonies. In general, colonies of green algae are composed of long threads of hundreds of individual organisms. But the most amazing and beautiful colonies are those of volvox. In these colonies, individual organisms link together to form hollow balls. The members of the colony are able to communicate with one another and can beat their flagella in a highly coordinated way to move the colony in a specific direction. Volvox makes special reproductive cells from which new colonies develop inside of a parent colony. A second phylum of plant-like protists are the golden algae. The delicate organisms called diatoms seen here are the most common members of this group. The cell walls of diatoms contain a glassy material which creates a two-part shell-like casing. Diatoms dwell in both fresh and salt water. In fact, diatoms are the most numerous of the many food and oxygen-producing organisms that float near the ocean's surface. Like bacteria, protists normally reproduce asexually from one parent organism by replicating their DNA and then dividing into two new organisms. Offspring resulting from asexual reproduction possess identical genes. Such organisms are known as clones. However, protists can reproduce sexually as well, a process that involves two parent cells. For example, some green algae engage in conjugation, or joining together by forming a mating tube between two cells through which DNA passes. Because the offspring of sexual reproduction end up with genes from two parents, their ability to survive environmental changes tends to be better than those of the clones that result from asexual reproduction.